Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to F1 Blogs and welcome back to another deep dive. This is where we cut through all the noise, skip the quick summaries, and really get straight to the real insights. Today's mission for you listening is a proper high-octane deep dive into the Free Practice 3 session, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. It just wrapped up September 6th, 2025. Now, this wasn't just like a final shakedown, was it? It felt more like this brutal, intense sprint to get everything perfect. Think of it like the ultimate pressure cooker, The last 60 minutes for these teams to basically validate months, literally months, of simulation work and make some really gut-wrenching calls on setup, give their drivers the confidence they need to push the absolute limit around this place, the Temple of Speed. It's iconic, and it delivered. We saw this fascinating mix of calculated strategic plays, some really unexpected surges from the midfield are always fun to see, and well, it's Monza, right? Plenty of last-minute drama that kept us absolutely glued to the screens. We've gone through everything, all the real-time telemetry, the driver radio snippets, paddock whispers, everything from the session, and we're going to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge for you. Our aim is that you're not just informed, but you really feel in the know about that whole intricate dance of engineering and nerve that unfolded. It really sets the stage for what looks like an electrifying qualifying.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, is really getting a handle on the critical, almost sort of existential role that FP3 plays in a race weekend. For those of you really deep into the strategic side of Formula One, this isn't just like a casual drive. Teams definitely can't afford to relax here. This is it. The last really intense hour, teams get to fine-tune their car setups. And that often involves these tiny, delicate adjustments to everything: ride height, anti-roll bars, wing angles, front and rear. Super critical. And crucially, it's also the final chance to properly evaluate the different tire compounds. You got the hard, the C3 from Pirelli, the medium C4, and the soft C5. And they need to gather that mission-critical data on how the track conditions are changing, because they change fast. Every single decision made in this 60-minute window, every bit of telemetry they analyze, it directly impacts how the car is going to perform in that cutthroat qualifying session. And, well, that obviously affects the Grand Prix itself. No points for FP3, of course. But the stakes, they couldn't really be higher. It's the final dress rehearsal, the last chance to iron out any kinks.
And as we'll definitely get into, it very clearly reveals who's really got the pace, who might be strategically sandbagging, as they say, and who still has quite a bit of work to do before qualifying really cranks up the pressure. Building that perfect foundation is just paramount.
That's a fantastic way to put it, really setting the scene for FP3's critical role. And you could absolutely feel that intensity building, couldn't you? Especially with the Tifosi already creating that just iconic red tide at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. For you listening, if you're really into the strategy, this wasn't just practice. It felt like a spectacle even before qualifying officially started. The anticipation was just building minute by minute. Monza is just different, isn't it? The passion of the Tifosi, those incredibly fervent Ferrari fans, they just transform the circuit into this sea of red. Their energy is, well, it's palpable. Even just watching the broadcast, it's a place just steeped in history where the roar of the engines is almost secondary to that collective cheer, But what struck me was that initial calm before the storm right at the start of the session. You mentioned drivers like Carlos Sainz not even in their cars yet. For our listeners who really follow the strategy side, can you maybe elaborate a bit on why that wait-and-see approach is so common, especially at a track like Monza? Why not just rush out immediately?
That's a brilliant observation, because it really highlights one of the core strategic puzzles of FP3. You'd think instinctively, right, more laps equals more data. Simple. But at Monza, track evolution is just profoundly significant. The asphalt literally rubbers in as more cars run. They lay down increasing amounts of grip, and that makes the circuit faster, progressively faster, lap after lap. So if a team rushes out right at the green light, their initial data from those very green conditions, meaning the track's still a bit dusty, lacking that rubber layer, well, that data might quickly become kind of irrelevant for the really critical qualifying simulations later on. Teams are often waiting, you see, for the track to reach a certain optimal state. It's this crucial window when the grip levels are high and properly representative of what they'll face later. This ensures their later runs, especially when they bolt on the softer compounds, provide genuinely valid data for qualifying setup and strategy. It's a calculated gamble, really, balancing early data gathering against optimizing for that peak single-lap performance.
And it often hinges on some pretty sophisticated track models, live telemetry analysis, and very precise weather forecasts too. Go out too early, your data is outdated. Too late, and you risk hitting traffic, or worse, session-ending red flag.
Right. So it's all about hitting that sweet spot, that perfect timing window. And who were the brave ones who decided to venture out first, to start testing those conditions? And what did their early tire choices kind of signal to us?
Precisely. Among the very first to hit the track, as we saw, were Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll from Aston Martin. And interestingly, they immediately went out on the durable hard compound, the C3. Now, for anyone watching closely, this wasn't about setting blistering times or, making some big early statement on pace. Definitely not. This was a clear strategy. It was about initial systems checks, making sure all the sensors were working right, that all the complex electronic systems were online and functioning as expected. Basic housekeeping almost. But more importantly, it was about understanding tire degradation over a longer run, getting a sort of foundational feel for how the track conditions were evolving, rather than just going for a performance run. The hard compound, it gives you the most longevity, but it definitely has the least ultimate grip. So it's pretty ideal for these initial sort of exploratory laps where outright speed just isn't the main objective. Teams are looking at how quickly these tires come up to temperature, how consistently they perform lap after lap, and how much performance drop-off they see over what might be a simulated race stint.
Valuable data, just not headline grabbing. Then, as the session started to unfold, we began seeing the first real benchmarks, the first signs that pace was building. Pierre Gasly of Alpine, he was the first to actually register a timed lap. It was a somewhat conservative 1.23.965, just a baseline really. You could almost feel the track was just begging for more speed at that point. Then, in quite a significant jump, Yuki Tsunoda of Racing Bulls, often a good indicator of early pace, he clocked a 1.21.876. Now that was a clear indicator. The track was already gaining pace quite rapidly. Rubber was going down, the surface was cleaning up. It's just a testament to how dynamic these F1 circuits are that you can see such big improvements in just the first few minutes. We also saw some very specific individual driver situations unfolding right away. Andrea Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes, for instance. He was under immense pressure, wasn't he? He'd missed FP2 because of that unfortunate off-track moment, which, look, for a rookie, that's a huge setback. Monza is seriously high speed. It's got unique braking zones, pretty formidable curbs.
Missing that critical track time means losing those precious chances to understand how the car behaves under heavy braking, like in Variante della Roggia or the Parabolica, and understanding how aggressively you can attack those curbs without completely unsettling a car. It's crucial. So, Antonelli, he wasted absolutely no time. Straight out on soft tires, immediately trying to catch up on those crucial qualifying simulations. It really highlighted his urgent need to recover that lost track time. A high-risk, high-reward start for him, for sure. But even for the most experienced guys, Monza can be notoriously tricky. Look at Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion. His first flying lap attempt, aborted. Ran wide at turn 1. And that's not just a minor error, Running wide at the Variante del Rettifilo, it costs significant time. It just goes to show you even the smallest misjudgment on this high-speed, relatively low-grip circuit can completely ruin a lap. It kind of set the tone, didn't it? How challenging the session would be for everyone, no matter their experience level. Monza demands perfection.
Yeah, that early moment from Hamilton really did underscore just how fine the margins are there. Even the absolute best can get caught out by Monza's demands, especially, like you said, with a track that's constantly evolving. And as the session moved past those initial, maybe cautious minutes, we saw the strategic chess game really kick into high gear, didn't we? Teams started to show their hand, or maybe just a part of it anyway. This is where it gets really interesting for me because the sheer variety of approaches to finding performance became so clear.
Indeed it did. It's exactly like watching a chess match where players reveal their strategies piece by piece, move by move. Max Verstappen, well, as you'd probably expect, he quickly made his presence felt. Although Red Bull often takes a slightly more measured approach to FP3 compared to some of their rivals. But when he did come out, he wasted absolutely no time laying down his benchmark. His first significant time was a 1.20.040 on the soft tires. It was a pretty formidable initial marker, immediately putting him right at the sharp end. But he didn't stop there. He soon improved that to a commanding 1.12.688. At that point, that was the fastest time of the entire weekend so far. It just demonstrated his immediate pace and, well, Red Bull's inherent speed, even with what seemed like fairly limited initial running compared to some others. Showed a high degree of confidence in their baseline setup, I think. But Ferrari, they weren't far behind at all, strongly hinting at that home advantage, and their potential really to deliver something special for the Tifosi. Charles Leclerc showcased immense potential. He was running just 0.014 seconds behind Verstappen, an incredibly tight gap, almost nothing.
And what's more, he did that on the medium tires. Now that was a very, very competitive time, especially considering the harder compound usually gives away, half a second, maybe even up to a second compared to the softs. It really suggested a real underlying pace, a car that was well-balanced even on a less grippy tire compound. And his new teammate, Lewis Hamilton, also now in Ferrari colors, he was similarly strong in those early to mid phases, just further indicating Ferrari's strength and the potential, really, for a formidable front-row challenge. The diverse tire strategies across the grid during this period were truly fascinating to watch. While Verstappen was using softs for his fastest early times, the Ferrari drivers were clearly opting for mediums. They were likely gathering crucial long-run data or perhaps deliberately holding back their ultimate pace on the softs, maybe conserving them for those critical qualifying simulations later. Then you had McLaren. Surprisingly, really surprisingly, they were still running predominantly on the hard tires during this phase. Now, for anyone who follows F1 closely, this strongly suggested a focus on extensive long-run data collection, understanding tire wear over race distances. Or maybe it was a highly strategic decision to just delay their performance runs until much later in the session when the track conditions would be at their absolute peak. They were playing a very different game early on, almost like a strategic misdirection maybe, not wanting to show their true speed too soon. This kind of nuanced tire management, it can pay huge dividends, especially at Monza where that single perfect lap is just paramount. And another really compelling narrative that was emerging in this mid-session phase was Williams' surprisingly strong pace. Alex Albon, a driver really known for extracting the absolute maximum from his machinery, he was consistently improving his times. Climbed right into the top 5 initially P4, then settled into P5 for a while. This was a really significant showing. It demonstrated that Williams might actually have a very strong package at Monza this weekend. It suggests their low-drag philosophy was really paying off in those long straights of the Temple of Speed. For our listeners, just quickly, a low-drag setup means reducing aerodynamic resistance, often done with those super thin rear wings, minimal cooling ducts.
Now, while this absolutely maximizes straight line speed, which is crucial at Monza, it often makes the car a bit twitchier under braking, maybe less stable through the high-speed corners and the chicanes. It demands exceptional precision, real bravery from the driver. Albon's ability to consistently deliver that kind of pace with that setup certainly got people talking about her potential for qualifying. Big time.
Definitely. And as the session edged closer to that halfway point, we started to see some of that mid-session drama unfold and also hear some crucial driver feedback over the radio, which is always so insightful, isn't it? Fernando Alonso, for example, still plugging away on those harder C3 compounds, he found himself down in 12th position, nearly a second off the pace. And that really underscored the challenge, the difficulty of extracting outright performance on that less grippy hard tire. Showed that even a driver of his incredible caliber can struggle when the compound just isn't optimal for single lap speed. It highlighted that strategic divergence perfectly, didn't it? Some teams clearly prioritizing that data gathering on harder compounds, even if it meant sacrificing early headline times, while others, like Verstappen, were already going for those performance runs. And also highlighted the inherent difficulties in getting those harder tires into their sweet spot, their optimal operating window, especially maybe in the relatively cooler morning conditions we had. Then there was Carlos Sainz. He also ran wide at turn 1, the Variante del Reticolo. That spot seemed to be catching quite a few drivers out early on, didn't it? But what was really interesting was his radio message afterwards. He reported tailwind over the radio. Now, that wasn't just a casual observation, was it? It provided really valuable insight into how even subtle wind conditions can significantly affect car handling on a high-speed circuit like Monza, especially under those heavy braking zones and into the chicanes. A tailwind pushing the car from behind into a corner effectively reduces the aerodynamic load on the front of the car. Makes it lighter, much more prone to locking up the front tires or just running wide. It certainly gives us a bit of context as to why Ollie Bierman had similar issues in that exact same area. Highlights that even these incredibly skilled drivers are constantly battling these invisible forces out there. Unfortunately, though, not all teams had a clean run through this part of the session. Liam Lawson of Racing Bulls, he had to retire from the session early. An unspecified car problem, they said. That meant he missed out on really valuable track time, which is always a significant setback. Particularly for a younger driver who just needs every single lap to build confidence and really understand the track limits. And it also highlighted those ever-present technical challenges that teams face, even in what's technically just a practice session. Reliability, even in practice, is absolutely crucial. So as we hit that halfway mark, the Ecuador de la Sesión, as they call it, the standings, gave us a bit of a snapshot, didn't they? A glimpse of the pecking order at that precise moment. Max Verstappen was leading the way, followed closely by Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in the Ferraris. But then you looked further down and you saw Carlos Sainz way down in 15th, Fernando Alonso in 17th. These positions really illustrated just how much could still change in that final push for performance, especially knowing that drivers would eventually switch to those softer, faster tires. It was clear that the story of FP3 was far, far from over, and that the biggest statements, the real headline times, were definitely yet to come.
Absolutely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, it's clear that mid-session was this real strategic balancing act, a careful poker game being played out. Teams were either meticulously gathering data on those harder compounds, trying to really understand their long-run pace, how the tires might degrade over a full Grand Prix distance, or they're meticulously preparing their cars for that late dash on the soft tires, waiting for when the track would be at its most rubbered in and, theoretically, its fastest. The difference between Verstappen's early pace on the softs and Ferrari's strong performance on the mediums really highlights these varied approaches perfectly. You basically have a choice, don't you? Do you show your hand early, lay down a benchmark, maybe influence what your rivals decide to do? Or do you wait, optimize everything for that one qualifying simulation run, gather more data in the meantime, and perhaps hide your ultimate pace? Give your rivals less information to react to. McLaren's prolonged use of the hard tires was a perfect example of prioritizing that comprehensive data gathering. They were trusting, clearly, that they could switch on the performance when it truly mattered later on.
For a team to commit to that kind of hard tire program, they must have a really high degree of confidence in their car's inherent speed and its ability to extract performance from the softs later without needing extensive prior running on them in the session. It's a bold move, definitely. And it speaks volumes about their overall strategy for the weekend.
Exactly, and that trust in their process, well, it definitely seemed to pay off when we moved into that final frenzy of the session. Wow, the atmosphere just shifted dramatically in those last 15 minutes or so. It was like this collective holding of breath across the paddock, and probably for everyone watching. As the session neared its end, you saw this mass exodus. Driver after driver retreated to the garages, all with one singular, urgent goal. Bolts on fresh soft tires, the C5s. This was the moment everyone, including us, was waiting for. Signaled the start of the real pace, the crucial qualifying simulation runs. It was just a clear, palpable shift from that methodical data gathering earlier to an outright, no-holds-barred sprint for ultimate lap time. And Alex Albon was actually one of the first to break cover on those new softs, seemed eager to make the most of a potentially clear track. And he immediately set a highly competitive time, didn't he? Clocked a 1.19.981. That briefly placed him right up there among the top contenders. A really strong statement from Williams, reinforcing that idea that their low-drag setup was genuinely effective here. But then, as often happens in the fluid, rapidly changing world of F1, the hierarchy just got completely reshuffled very quickly. A new force emerged. The McLarens then just unleashed their pace. It felt like a truly dominant entrance onto the top of the timesheets. Lando Norris stormed to the top with a blistering 1.19.331. That wasn't just the fastest time of the session, it was the fastest time of the entire weekend up to that point. Just phenomenal. And his teammate Oscar Piastri, he wasn't far behind at all. Secured P2 initially, just 0.247 seconds slower, showcasing a formidable team performance and really putting down a definitive marker for qualifying. It was a proper statement of intent from the papaya cars, wasn't it? Signaling that they are absolutely ones to watch very closely.
Oh, absolutely. That McLaren statement in those final minutes was truly significant. Their decisive benchmark on the softs doesn't just suggest they're incredibly strong contenders for qualifying. It also indicates their car appears to be exceptionally well suited to Monza's high-speed characteristics, just gels with the track. To have both cars right at the very top or extremely close to it, that indicates a really well-balanced and fast package, particularly in terms of aerodynamic efficiency, which is king here, and also mechanical grip through those tricky chicanes. This isn't just about raw engine power, it's about how their whole chassis is optimized for the unique demands of this specific track. Impressive stuff. What's also fascinating here, though, is the rise of some newer talents during this really intense final period. Isaac Hadjar at Racing Bulls and Gabriel Bortoleto at Kick Sauber, they delivered surprising, maybe even eye-opening performances. Hadjar, fresh off that podium in the Netherlands, he showed immense confidence and really impressive pace, slotted into a very competitive position.
For a young driver to carry that kind of momentum and deliver under the pressure of FP3, especially at Monza, it speaks volumes about his mental fortitude and just his raw speed. And Bortoleto, who's been noted for his endiablada, his devilish top speed, he also deeply impressed. Placed 6th in the final standings, his ability to harness the sheer velocity required at Monza while still maintaining precision through those challenging chicanes, it's a real testament to his potential. This really highlights the incredible depth of talent currently on the grid, doesn't it?
and the potential for these young drivers to really shake up the established order, not just within their teams, but across the entire midfield battle. But even with McLaren's surge and the emergence of this new talent, Max Verstappen's late push on his second set of soft tires, it still demonstrated his consistent, almost relentless speed. You just can't discount him. He slotted himself into P2 at one point with a 1.110.513, just under 2/10 behind Norris at that moment. So, while he didn't ultimately top the session, his close proximity showed that Red Bull absolutely remains a formidable contender.
Verstappen is always right there in the mix, isn't he? Even when others are finding exceptional pace, it was really a testament to his sort of uncanny ability to extract performance consistently without necessarily needing to chase every single tenth in a practice session. And it also raises that intriguing question, doesn't it, whether Red Bull, as is often their way, might have even more in hand for qualifying. Maybe they haven't fully unleashed their ultimate performance yet. They are just never ever to be underestimated.
Oh, absolutely. And as the clock wound down to the very last seconds, we were treated to some ultimate drama, the kind that Monza just seems to specialize in delivering year after year. Charles Leclerc, right in front of his beloved Tifosi, he had that que susto, what a scare, going through Les Mos 2, briefly touched the ground, the gravel. You could almost hear the collective gasp from the passionate crowd through the broadcast. Les Mos 2, it's such a crucial, fast right-hander. Demands immense precision, total commitment. A moment like that, briefly running wide onto the gravel, hitting a curb awkwardly, it can so easily end a session or just completely destroy a lap time. But he managed to recover the car with incredible skill and composure. And then, literally in the dying seconds of the session, he delivered an absolutely sensational final lap. It felt like a truly heroic effort, a defiant response to that pace McLaren had just shown. Leclerc pulled out this phenomenal lap, snatched P2 right at the end, just 0.021 21 thousandths behind Norris. That truly gave joy to the Tifosi. You could feel the entire circuit just erupt with noise. And it underlined Ferrari's immense potential at their home race, a massive psychological boost heading into qualifying surely. It was just an absolutely electrifying moment that captured the very essence of Formula One at Monza. Just brilliant. But perhaps the most incredible takeaway from those final minutes, and something truly indicative of the current competitive state of Formula One, was the almost unbelievable tightness of the field. Less than 1 second separated all 20 drivers, from P1, Norris, all the way down to P20. That is truly remarkable. It's bordering on unprecedented, isn't it? And it speaks volumes about the incredible engineering, the sheer talent, and the competitiveness across the entire grid right now, especially here at Monza. Every hundredth, every single thousandth of a second is going to count for qualifying in a way that is almost impossible to properly imagine.
And this raises such an important question, doesn't it? How will these tiny differences, these incredibly fine margins we just saw, translate into the absolute pressure cooker of qualifying? When the gaps are this small, it just means that every single millisecond, every perfectly executed corner exit, every precise tyre choice, even the smallest, most imperceptible error, it'll be absolutely critical. Mistakes won't just be penalised, they'll be severely punished, potentially costing drivers multiple grid positions, profoundly impacting their entire race prospects. It means qualifying won't just be about raw pace, it'll be about perfect execution under immense, almost unbearable pressure. The slightest misjudgment with the slipstream, which is so crucial down Monza's long straights, or just a minor lock-up going into one of the chicanes, that could genuinely be the difference between pole position and starting way back in the midfield pack. It's just a testament to the drivers' extraordinary skill, isn't it? Their physical and mental fortitude and the engineering prowess of these teams that they can get so incredibly close on such a demanding and unforgiving circuit. The stakes just couldn't be higher for qualifying.
So, looking ahead then, what does this all mean for what's coming next? Let's take a proper look at those final standings from FP3, because they really do paint a fascinating and, in some places, pretty surprising picture of the pecking order heading into that crucial qualifying session. Lando Norris of McLaren, he led the pack with that blistering 1.19.331 phenomenal lap. And right behind him, making the Tifosi absolutely erupt with joy, was Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. Incredibly close, just plus 0.021 seconds back. Tiny margin. Oscar Piastri, Norris's teammate, he rounded out the top three at plus 0.165 seconds, absolutely confirming McLaren's exceptional pace and really showing their car looks perfectly dialed in for Monza. Then we had that formidable chasing pack breathing right down their necks. Max Verstappen, Red Bull in P4, only plus 0.167 seconds off the pace, still showing his consistent threat even when not topping the session. And like you said, perhaps with more still to come. George Russell from Mercedes was P5 at plus 0.184 seconds, and then a truly strong and really eye-catching showing from one of the newer talents, Gabriel Bortoleto for Kick Sauber, securing P6 at plus 0.227 seconds. Really impressive. Lewis Hamilton in the second Ferrari was P7 at plus 0.267 seconds. Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls P8 at plus 0.272 seconds. Kimi Antonelli Mercedes P9 at plus 0.365 seconds. And Alex Albon Williams, who had such a phenomenal session overall, finished strongly in P10 at plus 0.389 seconds. That is an incredibly tight top 10, isn't it? All within less than 0.4 of a second. Now, looking a bit further down the timesheets, where maybe that strategic test game was even more nuanced, Fernando Alonso finished P12 for Aston Martin, plus 0.530 seconds back, and Carlos Sainz was P13 in the other Ferrari, plus 0.576 seconds off. Now, that marks a bit of a dip for Sainz, doesn't it, compared to his earlier strong showings in FP1 and FP2, which adds a really interesting narrative point heading into qualifying. It really highlights just how quickly things can change in F1, how absolutely crucial those final runs on the soft tyres are, and maybe, just maybe, how some teams might have deliberately held back their ultimate pace until it really counts. It's a puzzle, isn't it? A puzzle for us to solve as we head into that next crucial session.
Yeah, definitely. And connecting these FP3 results to the broader picture, McLaren certainly gained a huge confidence boost from that. Their strong 1-3 result, which was actually a 1-2 for a decent chunk of that final run, it positions them exceptionally well for qualifying. It strongly suggests they have a very fast, very aerodynamically efficient car here at Monza, capable of both that high straight line speed and maintaining precision through the chicanes. This doesn't feel like a fluke. It feels like a testament to their continuous development and really understanding their package. For Ferrari, well, Leclerc's stunning final lap provides immense hope, doesn't it? And genuine excitement for the Tifosi. It strongly suggests that Ferrari absolutely has the raw pace to challenge for pole position at their home race, which would be just an incredible, almost fairy tale achievement for them. And even if Max Verstappen didn't top this session, his incredibly close proximity to the leaders just highlights that Red Bull remains this ever-present, formidable contender. You can never, ever underestimate them.
Their ability to deliver when it really counts is almost legendary, and they often seem to find another gear in qualifying trim. What's also incredibly intriguing are those surprising performances we saw further down, or maybe further up than expected. Alex Albon's consistently strong showing for Williams right there in the top 10 indicates they could be a real factor in that tight midfield battle, potentially disrupting the established order, which is always exciting. Similarly, the Kick-Sauber pair, Bortoludo and Hulkenberg, they delivered some unexpected pace. Suggests they might have found something special for this particular track, perhaps an optimal low-drag setup that really suits Monza's unique demands. On the flip side, though, the struggles for Aston Martin and Alpine with their lower positions suggest they have significantly more work to do to find pace before qualifying, particularly Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon, who are languishing right near the bottom of the timesheets. For those teams, the engineers will be absolutely poring over the data right now, making those last-minute adjustments and just hoping for some kind of breakthrough before qualifying begins. The pressure is on them.
And a special mention, I think, has to go to Franco Colapinto at Alpine. He actually outqualified his teammate Pierre Gasly in this session. Now, for a young driver, still finding his feet, that is a truly motivating result, as they say. Could be a significant confidence booster that really propels him forward. These small victories within the team, even in practice, can mean the absolute world.
So, wrapping this all up then, what does it all mean for what's coming next?
Well, the upcoming qualifying session, 18.00 CES, it's going to be absolutely crucial, maybe even more so than usual, given these tiny gaps. Monza's incredibly long straights mean that slipstream strategy, getting that perfect toe, is going to be a key tactical weapon for many, many teams. As will expertly navigating traffic on those flying laps, that's always a unique challenge at the circuit, given its layout and sheer speed. The incredibly tight margins we saw in FP3, with less than a second separating the entire field, well, it promises an incredibly close, incredibly tense, and undoubtedly thrilling qualifying battle. Every hundredth of a second could genuinely determine pole position. And hopefully you, our listener, are now perfectly primed to appreciate every single one of those tense, nail-biting moments. You're ready to see how this incredible puzzle finally pieces together.
Yeah, and this really raises an important final question for you to ponder as we look ahead to qualifying. Given these incredibly tight gaps we've just been talking about, and the significant variety of tire strategies we witnessed throughout FP3, with some teams pushing early on softs, others waiting patiently, some focusing extensively on harder compounds, how much of what we actually saw was genuine outright pace? And how much were teams strategically sandbagging, as we call it, or maybe just running different, highly specialized programs designed for data gathering rather than headline times? Could some teams, maybe especially those with historically strong qualifying form, but who ended up maybe a bit lower down the FP3 standings than expected, could they have a significantly more pace in hand that they just haven't revealed yet? ready to unleash it for qualifying. And what about those unexpected midfield surges we saw? Are they truly representative of their pace, or were they maybe just catching a lucky toe at the perfect moment? The answers to those questions, well, they're going to make the grid even more unpredictable, and that battle for pole position utterly captivating to watch unfold.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on F1 Blogs for this deep dive into the Monza GP Free Practice 3. We really hope you feel fully informed, thoroughly intrigued, and absolutely ready for what promises to be a truly thrilling qualifying session later today. If you've enjoyed this in-depth analysis and found these insights valuable, please do remember to subscribe to our F1 Blogs channel. We bring you more insights, breakdowns, and all the behind-the-scenes knowledge you need to be truly well-informed in this captivating world of Formula One. We'll be back with you very soon with more deep dives right into the heart of the action.